This is the 21st season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, Aftco, Pro Guide Batteries, Spro, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good morning and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. Recorded show today. I'm actually on a plane on this lovely Wednesday morning headed to Clarksville Lake in Georgia. Going to be fishing with Daryl Gleason and then headed to the Masters on Friday. I think pimento cheese sandwiches, like $3 beers. They make you take your cell phones and put them in like a little case so you don't have any distractions while you're watching the Masters golfers. I'm working on my wardrobe for it, so pretty excited. But first, we're going to go try to catch some herring fish on Clark's Hill. But I wanted to get in a show because something pretty cool happened over the past weekend. Well, I wouldn't say the tournament itself was cool. It was something, though. It was memorable as hell. It was the third tournament of Division II of the Bassmaster Open on Norfork Lake. Mountain Home, Arkansas. Been a long time since bass has been on Norfolk, and I did not realize how cool of a fishery it was. Has a real Ozarky vibe. Like there's a little bit of like some watercolor that's like Lake of the Ozarks, but then it's got some table rock mixed in. It's right up the way from Bull Shoals, and there's a guy that we're gonna have on who had turned into a one-day shootout, and he's pretty dang good on all those places, actually guides on them. And in fact, he was the best in what turned into a one-day shootout, and that's Casey Scanlon, the champion. Thanks for jumping on, Casey.
Thanks for having me, man. Feels good to be here.
It does. 18 pounds, 5 ounces, crazy practice, hail, wind, rising water, goes out day one, crack 18.5. When was the first time you thought, my God, I might win this without making another cast?
Did you say, I'm sorry, the phone broke up for a second, but
I said, when was the first time you thought I might win this and never make another cast?
You know, I guess it was when we were kind of sitting around the next day and guys started calling me and kind of, just kind of joking around, saying some stuff like that. But, going into it, I felt like I had a good shot at contending for it. I never imagined in one day it would be a one-day shootout. But I had a good practice and was looking forward to the Derby. But it was really weird sitting around for 2 days, having the lead, and not knowing if you're going to go again. So Lake was changing, so I was just sitting there the whole time, just trying to game plan, like hey, we're going again. So what are we going to do now?
For those who weren't following that, so what Bass does is they have a text chain. So when Hank decides something, it goes out to all of the anglers. And based on what happened at the first Open on Sam Rayburn, I think Hank really wanted to get some days in here, Casey.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
We got up the second morning. We're like, man, this is going to be a bad storm that hits. And then boom, 5:30, text comes through. Hey, we're not fishing today. And then all of a sudden, that's when all the rain started and the water started coming up. Like after the second day, you had to think we're not fishing on the final day when you started looking at all the forecasts.
I tried to just maintain focus. Of course, everybody I'm hanging out around is like,
who are you hanging out with? Like, who's giving you all this?
My
advice?
buddy Joe Weiberg, Andy Newcomb. We were sitting around, and of course, I'm getting a bunch of texts, and guys are saying, "Hey, congratulations, champ," and stuff like that. And you try to just say to yourself that I gotta keep in the mind frame that we're going again, and I got the lead, so let's try to close it out. And that's what I tried to do. I tried not to think about, maybe it being a one-day shootout. Of course, I didn't imagine the surrounding areas being as affected as they were by that rain. I've seen all these Ozark lakes get a ton of rain and jump up really fast. And, the fishing usually remains good, but, when I went down to get the trophy the final day, it was up over the walkways at the marina, and it came up fast. And then getting out of there, it was hard to do. There was a there was a lot of water. So, looking back on it, it's easy to see why it was canceled. But at the time, I was just game planning for what was next.
Did you, had you fished, did you think it would have been a different fishery, or do you think that we'll get into your pattern a little bit, but do you think you would kind of game plan to where you could handle some changes, you could handle some water, you could handle some debris and still put some fish in the boat?
Yeah, I think I could have handled, all of those things. I think, I could have made adjustments, caught fish, and continue to do well in the tournament. The spot I was catching them on, I could have day 2, I could have done it for a while. Day 3, I was going to have to go out and find new water. I'm sure, just like everybody else in the field at that point, it was a totally different fishery.
Let's run through how you got the job done, because we're talking old school pre-spawn Ozark rising water cold front stuff that's worked since the dawn of bass fishing. Is that a fair assessment on how you got the job done this week?
Oh yeah. Just fished, how I grew up fishing, and threw some confidence baits and was able to get it done.
Talk about the spinner bait. Now, I think when I had you on before, is this kind of your baby? Like, is this one that you designed and have all sorts of stuff that's specific for the Ozarks with and stuff?
So, it is my baby. But I can't take credit for designing it. It was designed by an Ozark legend, Jerry McCutcheon.
Okay.
Lives at Truman Lake and is still a hammer. And he's won, I believe, 19 boats in a lake house on this one spinner bait right here.
Whoa. 19 boats and a lake house?
Correct.
Like he fished a tournament for a lake house?
That's one guy. Can you believe that they used to give those away in tournaments? Like,
wait
that would be pretty sweet.
Is this guy still around?
Oh yeah.
Is he chill? Like, would he come on and talk about how he won a lake house in a bass tournament?
He might. But he's a legendary angler. Won a lot of tournaments on this lure, and it was a bait I grew up throwing. Had a lot of success in it. We started our trophy bass company, lure company, with a lot of baits that I have designed, like a swim jig, flipping jig, and a few other products. And so, I was able to, we were able to talk to Jerry and incorporate this into our lineup because it currently wasn't being built. So, we were basically, I was needing a spinnerbait. So I did really well on this and FLW tour event at Lake Cumberland. I made a top 10 on it at Grand last year. So it's accounted for a lot of tournament success for me, as well as for a lot of other anglers, both nationally and locally.
Walk through that spinnerbait and some of the things that you think makes it better than just pulling one off the shelf.
Well, we got half and half blades. So if you can see, this side's kind of showing the color on there. Well, if you flip it over, both sides have got gold on that other side. So it gives it a unique look.
I didn't know that. Look. So for the iTunes listeners, the bottom blade is a hammer gold number 5 willow leaf.
Correct.
With the other side is painted white. The top is it's a tandem willow leaf. Sure. And the top is chartreuse with the painted gold, and then just your standard white and chartreuse skirt.
Sure. And we make it in some other colors and some other blade combinations, but all of them feature the half and half, blades. And, we use a different wire on here that gives it a ton of vibration, and it makes it like super durable. You can stretch this blade and it goes back into shape. You can get tons of fish off of it before it gives out on you. And then, it's got a flat head on here. We've got a little bend that helps it run even through the water column, which increases the vibration and, makes it a truer running spinnerbait. So it's got a few things on it working for it, and been a great bait, and just a staple in the Ozarks.
Now, I know a lot of guys it was no secret that channel swing banks up lake with a jig. I mean, we saw Matt Herron and Randall Tharp go at it. I think you were fishing that tournament, weren't you?
Yeah, I did
When
fish
that
in that
happened, and
tournament.
didn't you do really well up at that or Bull Shoals? Or there was one where you were you
I
almost
think
like
that
won an elite series
yeah, the time before I think I finished second or
on
third
Bull Shoals.
At Bull Shoals. Had the
So a lot of
lead
guys
for a
catching them on
couple
the jig.
days.
Uh,
Yeah.
w- what made you go? You had an interest. You had an old school rig tube, 4/0 Hayabusa, 4-inch flipping tube, 5/16 out weight, noticeably unpegged. I noticed it said in the article.
Yeah.
Is that a little Ozark secret that you're giving out there now?
I mean, it's a bait that I've thrown forever, and been doing well in tournaments on that bait. Same brand, same color, same everything since I was 15 years old, and it's a bait that works, and I've got a lot of confidence in the unpegged part of it. Is I just typically do not peg a weight. I feel like I get better hookups, and the bait gets better action, especially a tube. It's going to spiral down and fall a lot better. So I typically don't peg a weight unless maybe I'm flipping bushes or something, but that's just something I've never really done. And but the tube has been it's a good bait, and like you said, lots of guys throwing jigs, so it's a bait that I can and I'm a jig guy. Anybody that's fished with me knows that that's one of my favorite baits, if not my favorite bait ever. And I just in the springtime I can typically go behind people and catch them better on a tube.
Were you going behind people in this tournament on Thursday?
I think we all were at some point in time. Those banks were all fished. Now there wasn't a whole lot of company where I was at. There was a few guys that kind of went through that stretch that was key for me, but I never passed by a boat really going down the bank. It was I saw other guys in the area. Some other guys fished the stretch for sure, but a lot of guys. The lake is small, so it was pressured throughout practice and throughout the tournament. So um, that was always in the back of my mind. With the spinner bait and the tube. They're both a little different than what other guys are throwing, and so that in it of itself gives me a lot of confidence.
Now I'm reading some of the articles about this tournament, and it sounds like you dumped a big one that you thought was going to cost you on day one.
I did. I lost one as big or bigger than anything I weighed. I weighed a 5'9" in, and lost it on that spinner bait, which like never happens. So I was kind of beside myself about that. Usually when they bite it, especially the way this one bit it, they're in the boat. And man, I pulled him all the way to the boat. I was about to boat flip him, but he was just too hot, and he went underneath the boat. Pulled him out, was getting ready to swing him over the side, and he just came off before I could even, really lift him out of the water. So it was just one of those deals. He must have not been hooked that good. I had a 2/0 Hayabusa trailer hook on it, which I always throw on a spinner bait, and caught a lot of fish on the trailer hook over the years. And man, the fish pummeled that thing, and I didn't get him. So I was, for a while, that was probably 12:30. I was scrambling. You're thinking, okay, that's a hard bite to recover from. But, I'd caught a couple big ones in that area in practice. I had already caught that 5'9" at the time and had a decent bag. So I knew big ones were there, and I knew that potentially with the rain, that area might be ruined. It was very far into the back of a creek, and, it was dirty, and it was a current break that I was fishing. So, that water coming in was helping me, but that 7-foot rise that we were about to get, you just didn't know how much longer that particular place would hold on. So I was wanting to go throw a glide bait and a bunch of other things that I caught some big ones on in practice. And I just kept making myself stick around and stick around and stick around. And so I tried working around a bunch of other stuff in the creek. I visited that lay down log because it had a lot of current on it. I'm surprised it didn't replenish the one that I lost that big one on. And so I kept revisiting some of these same pieces of cover. And then, I ventured into the other side of this creek for a couple hours when the bite kind of went stale. And made myself go back in there for about the last hour and a half and popped 2 more big ones. And that was the decision that got it done.
The last time you had a chance to win an Open was early in the season in 2023. And I'd never been to Bugs Island before. But when I got to Bugs Island, I was shocked at how Ozarky that place fished. And it was early in the year in the spring, and the water was coming up and the conditions were changing, and you finished third there.
Also on that spinnerbait.
Yeah, the Ozark guys understand how to make subtle differences and read changing conditions in the spring and in the fall that more so than any other part of the country, maybe outside of some Florida guys, gives them the biggest advantage. I'll say it, when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, I mean, those are the tournaments I typically like and do well in. I love fishing in the fall. I think generally fishing in the Ozarks must lend itself to, kind of fishing by the seat of your pants, so to speak, and making adjustments quickly. Because things change day to day based on the conditions, whether it's, sun, clouds, wind, rain. The fish change, and they change their behavior throughout the day a lot of times, especially those times of year, the spring and the fall. Summertime's pretty much same old, but things change very, very quickly on those lakes that time of year. And, when from fishing them over the years, you just learn to, fish that way, and it just becomes your style.
All right. I want to talk to you about this because this is the side of the Bassmaster Opens that is rarely talked about. You're a former Elite Series angler. You've vied for Elite Series titles. You've fished in a Bassmaster Classic before. You've fished in Forest Wood Cups. You won MLF or FLW tour event on Champlain. Did you lead that wire to wire?
No, I think I just led the final day. I think
you're
I was
dodging and dipping and ducking the need borders and paddle borders and stuff.
That's
so
right.
You are,
yeah. No, I
you
think
have success.
I think I came from, third, fourth to win that one. I was in, that position most of the tournament, I think, but yeah, that was a fun event.
The last 13 Opens coming into this one, you had not cashed a check. I remember pulling up next to you at Logan Martin. I'll say it. You may not want this, but it's the truth. This is the absolute truth. And I said, I'm embarrassed to weigh my limited because I had like an 8-pound limit on 5 spotted bass. And I think I called 17 times over the course of the day to get up to like 8-1. And you said, well, I've got a limit for 6 pounds. And I said, oh, BS. And you go, I ain't weighing them in. You're like, this is dumb. I'm freaking over this. This is impossible. I hate this crap right now. I just want to go home. I don't want to talk to anybody. And I watched you chuck a limit back at the docks after you checked in instead of going up and getting a bag.
Yeah. I mean, obviously not the best decision, but like you said, the last, before that, I had a decent Opens run. I felt like I had a chance at qualifying a couple years ago. I had a couple top 12s, the one with Bugs Island in it. And, and I didn't do good at my home lake. And, I felt like I had a shot to win the tournament in Tennessee that was so tough at the end of the year. And I just didn't execute and caught a lot of 17-inch smallmouth. I think it was an 18-inch deal on those. And just, had a 14 or something pound second day. But since then, it has just been difficult. And we've got a lot of great competition now. Forward-facing sonar has been dominant. And I've had that as long as anybody. I've been with Garmin forever. So, but guys are exceptional at that. And we saw that a lot last year. That played a lot last year. And, I just haven't – I've been close. I've had decent practices. And then when I show up tournament day, it just hasn't been panning out. So, it's just – it has been frustrating. And I think, before that, I fished a lot of Opens and I've cashed, usually going cash in most of them,
over half of the Opens for a 6-year period.
Yeah. And, it just hadn't been like that. The competition's tough, and there's a lot more boats. And, fishing shallow like I do with the 5 days of practice that we were having, I think that it didn't help things. I'm not making excuses, but when you're fishing shallow and you got a lot of boats on particular fisheries for 5 days practicing, it's just tougher tournament day. And it just is. And so the 3 days of practice now I do like, and of course getting this win, getting things back on track feels pretty good.
What does it mean to know that you're fishing in the 2026 Classic for the first time since 2013? Holy cow, is that over 10? Yeah, that's over 10 years. That's unbelievable. So you fish in Cliff Pace's Classic on Grand.
Yep.
And now, granted, you've had a lot of other ups and downs on that, but talk about from a confidence level, from a personal standpoint, from a sponsorship standpoint, to know that next March you'll be in Knoxville on the river walk, launching your boat for a chance to win the Classic for the second time in your career.
Well, absolutely awesome. First of all, I'm excited about it. That was the goal. I mean, that's the only reason I'm fishing the Opens. The Elite Series. Honestly, I'd probably have to take a hard look at it. I like my life right now. I like guiding at Lake of the Ozarks. I love fishing tournaments. The Elite Series, I've done it, and it's a lot. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of commitment, and those guys are good, and it takes, a ton of commitment and time away from home to do well. So, but it's huge, man. This is an awesome accomplishment. It's huge for my sponsors. I've had a lot of the same sponsors for my entire career, wholesale batteries, Nitro boats, Bass Pro Shops, Russell Marine Products. So for those guys that, and I'm of course I'm skipping a few, but for those people that have Garmin, those people that have been with me for so long, it's awesome to, in a way pay them back. This is what they're, supporting you for, so you can represent them at the highest level of the sport. And, we're doing that next year. So I'm excited about that. My sponsors are excited about it. And, the Classic it's the coolest tournament I've been a part of. And I've been wanting to get back for a long time now. And we're back. So
did you go to the last time I was in Knoxville?
I did not. No.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. It
looks like a sweet venue.
It's the best setup. Like the fishing, the fishing is the fishing.
Right.
But like from a 6,000 fans lined up on steps at takeoff to everybody can go from the takeoff to the expo to the venue, and they fill it up. And I mean, like if you're going to make one, Tulsa and Knoxville are two pretty dang good ones to make, Casey.
Yeah. Loved anytime I can fish Grand, I'm up for that. But yeah, I think I like the way this one might set up. It's probably going to be, a bit of a grinder. And I like Tennessee, Knoxville area, and I'm excited to be there, regardless of where it's at. I'm going to be there, and we're sure going to have fun this time.
Yeah. If you want more information on Casey, like you can go back. We did a guide day episode last year where we talked about all that you do on Lake of the Ozarks and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's not going to change at all. Like, how's it looking in 25 guiding? I mean, I would imagine you did some stuff over the winter and you're probably in full swing when you're not in tournament mode.
Oh yeah. I've been super busy, pretty much booked up the last, 3 or 4 weeks before we hit the road, crappie fishing actually. So I love to crappie fish, as do you, I've seen. So dude, we've just been killing them.
Hey, I just made $1,500 on a crappie last Saturday.
I saw that. That's pretty cool.
Why do you not fish any of those? You got to get in on that. That's like the greatest thing. I was crappie fishing and I was shaking uncontrollably, Casey. Like crappie fishing, and then you catch it and it's like you're netting it and stuff. Like it's the deal.
That's awesome.
I know you've got a big tournament coming up. This is going to air on Wednesday morning. So one of the cool things, or it's not cool, it's different. I actually kind of like it. One of the different things about the Toyotas this year, and I mean, unless you're a guy with a 9 to 5, then you have to take a lot of days off. But it starts on Tuesdays, right?
Yeah. Kind of odd, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never heard of a tournament starting on Tuesdays. But if I'm going to fish a tournament, I feel like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, constant flow, no recreational boats, very few other fishermen. Ideal for the tournament, guys.
That is true. That is true. We had a little bit of a shortened practice. Water's changing over here at Kentucky Lake, just like everywhere else, every day. So, I just as soon fish the tournament as opposed to practice for another day. So I'm ready. I'm ready for a Tuesday derby.
You're hot. You're on a roll.
There you go.
So,
let's hope
all
we
right.
can keep it that
so
way.
we're recording this. We're recording this on a Monday. It's going to run on Wednesday morning.
Perfect.
I want a prediction. What is your Tuesday weight in the Toyota Series on Kentucky Lake?
What am I going to have?
Yeah, like day one. Like when people are listening to this at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, like what was your satchel? What did your satchel consist of on Tuesday?
Well, I'm hoping for 18 pounds minimum. So, and I think that's realistic. But I think I can do 20.
I need an exact weight.
Okay. I'm going back to back 18.5 again.
Nice.
Running it back.
I like it. I like it a lot. We did that in the house before the first day of Kentucky, and we put $20 on it if we were within a pound.
Yeah.
I guessed 3 pounds, 4 ounces. That's how confident I was in the Open for my own weight on day one. I came in with 2.7.
That was a weird tournament. That was those guys smashed them, but I was expecting to do a little better in that one. It was harder to get bites. Again, a lot of boats. Those Opens have so many boats.
All right. Well, I hope by Wednesday afternoon I've got a unknown call from a tournament director explaining why that rule makes sense.
There you go. Maybe they'll change it for us. I would love to get a piece of that.
Like, do you know how much publicity that would give? Like, you should 100% be in. It helps them. It helps you. It helps everybody. The same with me.
I agree. And I mean,
we're
crappie,
not professional crappie anglers coming in to like pillage.
Yeah.
We just want to have a good time, promote the event.
Absolutely. So maybe
Casey,
we'll get
I
it
greatly
changed.
Appreciate it. By the way, it looks like you're staying in like a nice ass house.
It's pretty cool. It's like a little cabin right on the bigger cabin, right on the river here behind the dam at Kentucky Lake. So pretty cool setup.
All right. Good luck this week. Thanks for jumping on. Congrats.
All right, man, thanks. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. That is Casey Scanlon. I think we're just going to wrap it up from there and have a great show. Really cool to see him win. Always pull for him, dude. Dude's always been super cool. And he has a positive attitude like 98% of the time. Always says hi on the water. Very courteous. So good to see him get another Open win and go back to another classic. That's all we got for this morning. We'll talk to everybody. Wednesday? No day 4 with Frank Scalish because we did day 4 live on Tuesday morning. So it's day 4 on a Tuesday, a little bit of upside down world there. But we'll be back next Monday with a live show. Also, if you are not subscribed to BTL on the YouTube channel, check into that. Subscribe, turn the notifications on. I will be live from Georgia with Daryl Gleason, and you can catch that show if you have your notifications on. So this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live. We'll talk to everyone later. See ya.